The room went silent when Instructor Belzer strode in, 8 feet tall, wrapped in carbon weave armor, and already annoyed. The elite Xenocombat 401 class had never been quiet before, not even when the Gorgon twins got arrested mid-semester for smuggling a stolen railgun through interstellar customs. Belzer's voice rumbled like an avalanche. Pair up! The cadets snapped into motion, Krillians with venomous mandibles sized up titanium-armored fecks. A Trivokian, still bloody from a sparring match, high-fived his newly assigned partner, a cyborg assassin from Vega 9. Everyone had someone. Everyone, except the human. Kaito Hoshino stood awkwardly in the corner, fiddling with the strap on his boot. He always looked like he'd wandered into the wrong academy by mistake: slim frame, glasses with cracked rims, and a worn leather jacket that violated uniform code but somehow survived inspection. He wasn't just the only human in the Xenocombat class, he was the only one ever accepted. A sneer cut across the face of Rezik, the reptilian champion of last year's Death Gauntlet. "I'll take the Terran," he said, baring teeth designed to puncture vacuum suits. Laughter followed. "No thanks," Kaito replied with a shrug. Rezik blinked. "Excuse me?" Kaito nodded toward the instructor. "Belzer assigns partners." Belzer grunted. "Rezik. You and Hoshino. You'll need a meat shield." The class howled. Kaito didn't react. He never did. That was what made everyone nervous. Most species postured, threatened, displayed dominance like it was a second language. But Kaito? Kaito just watched. Belzer activated the holoboard. "Tomorrow begins your final exam, the Death World Simulation. You will be dropped on Hefar 9, one of the most hostile training planets in the sector. Gravity, 2.6 Earths. Atmosphere, semi-toxic. Fauna, aggressive. Flora, worse. Objective, survive and complete the extraction protocols within 48 standard hours." Kaito looked bored. He was the only one. Someone in the back whispered, "He's not gonna last 10 minutes. Rezik cracked his knuckles. "He's not gonna last 10 seconds. That night, in the dorm barracks, the talk was brutal. "He'll snap like a twig. Bet his bones aren't even reinforced. Terrans only got into the league cause of that dumb trade treaty." But Kaito sat cross-legged on his cot, calmly disassembling and cleaning a knife that wasn't on the Academy's approved weapons list. No one questioned him. They never did. Something about his quietness was louder than their taunts. At 0600, they boarded the dropship. Rezik crammed his muscled bulk into a seat, glaring at his partner, like Kaito was a cockroach someone accidentally allowed into the airlock. "You know why I volunteered to take you?" Rezik hissed. Kaito didn't look up from his datapad. "Enlighten me. So I'd have a witness. Someone to tell the instructors how I saved your spineless carcass before you croaked." Kaito raised an eyebrow. "Interesting strategy. Hero narrative, plus the underdog sympathy angle. Nice combo." Rezik snarled, then spat on the deck between them. "We'll see how long you keep talking when something's chewing on your leg." The ship shook as it entered atmosphere. Belzer's voice crackled over comms. "Deploying drop pods. Partners will land within half a click of each other. You'll start with a basic supply crate, one map node, and no contact with HQ. If you die, your partner fails too." Rezik sneered. "Try not to choke on your own breath, human." The pods launched. The planet hit Kaito like a sledgehammer. He crumpled to one knee the moment the pod hatch opened. Every breath felt like drinking molten iron. Gravity crushed his bones. Sweat poured instantly, then froze halfway down his back in the acidic air. And he smiled. Home sweet hell. He retrieved his pack with practiced speed, slipping out a sealed filter mask, a collapsible plasma dagger, and something that looked suspiciously like an illegal neuroscanner. Most cadets took hours to acclimate. Kaito did it in 7 minutes. A shriek pierced the sky. Rezik's voice buzzed through the short-range link. "Come in, meatbag. I'm pinned down by some kind of apex predator. Hurry your weak Terran legs before I feed you to it." Kaito checked the local terrain: broken ridges, pockets of sulfuric mist, and a rust-colored forest known for dissolving anything that bled. He moved. Not fast, efficient. Footfalls that didn't echo. Jumps that exploited gravitational dead zones between rocks. Every step looked accidental. None were. 15 minutes later, he found Rezik standing on the wreckage of his own drop pod, slashing at a towering insectoid with mandibles like guillotines. It was 10 feet tall and bleeding blue ichor. Rezik was panting. "About time!" Rezik shouted. "Help me or go die quietly!" Kaido didn't reply. He walked toward the creature, eyes narrowed. Then he whistled. The sound was sharp, deliberate, modulated in pitch. The insect jerked back. "What the?" Rezik shouted. "You just ticked it off more," Kaido said softly. "No. I spoke its nesting frequency." He tossed a small vial into the air. It shattered. The scent released was foul, like rust, ozone, and rotting protein. The insect stopped. It scanned Kaido with multifaceted eyes, then hissed, and retreated into the mist. Rezik's mouth fell open. What the void was that?" "Mutual respect," Kaido said, dusting off his jacket. Rezik stared. "You knew how to handle that thing?" Kaido shrugged. "Death worlds are about ecology. You have to learn the rules before you can cheat them." Rezik blinked, then narrowed his eyes. "Who the hell are you, really?" "Someone who reads the course manual," Kaido replied. Over the next 12 hours, their survival rate went from a projected 22% to 93%. Rezik wanted to be annoyed. Furious, even. But he couldn't stop watching. Kaido knew everything: how to avoid the gravity pits that pulled you underground, how to track wind shifts by the curl of the toxic grass, how to rig a flare so it distracted an airborne apex long enough for them to slip past unnoticed. But it wasn't just survival. Kaido enjoyed it. He treated the death world like a puzzle instead of a threat. Where others panicked, he planned. Where others screamed, he scribbled notes. Where others fought, he listened. They camped under a fungal canopy that Kaido coated in heat-reflective spores. Rezik stared into the crackling energy of their heating module. "You ever think of joining a real combat squad?" he asked. "Nope. You're better than half the Warborns I've met." Kaito's voice was soft. "I'm not here to fight." "Then what are you doing here?" Kaido tapped his temple. "Learning." The silence stretched between them, thick with things unsaid. Then the screech came. Not like before. Louder. Kaito's face shifted. "That's not part of the sim." "What?" He stood. "That sounds not in the training files." They both looked at the sky. And the stars were wrong. Kaito's voice turned to ice. "Something's been triggered. Something real." As night fell over Hefar 9, Rezik, prideful, lethal, and always in control, looked to the quiet Terran beside him and asked the question he never imagined he'd ask. "What do we do?" Kaito didn't hesitate. "We adapt." And for the first time in his life, Rezik didn't laugh at a human. Serve what came next. He followed him. Into the dark. Into the unknown. Because somewhere deep inside he knew. This was no longer a test. And the quiet one in class had just become the only one who understood how to. The first sign that something had gone off script was the smell. Simulations didn't smell like this, feral, raw, layered with decay so ancient it became a texture in the air. The reek hit Rezik first, his triple-set nostrils flaring in alarm. "Dead gods," he muttered, slapping his helmet's rebreather valve into override. "That's not simulated biomass. That's real rot." Kaido didn't respond. He was scanning the ridgeline through an optic slate, fingers twitching like he was solving an equation with his nerves. "Still think this is part of the exam?" Rezik asked. "No." Kaito lowered the slate. His voice dropped to a calm register that made Rezik's spines twitch. "The stars are wrong. That shriek last night, subsonic frequency. Almost like a warning call. None of that matches the Academy's known sim parameters." "Then explain this." Rezik growled, tossing a small black shard at Kaito's feet. Kaito knelt. The shard was metallic, pitted, and faintly glowing. He recognized the alloy, zirconium A41. Human military tech. And 20 years obsolete. It's from a crash site, Rezik added. Half a click west. No beacon, no black box, and whatever hit it turned the ship inside out. Looked like it got harvested. Kaito's expression hardened. He stood and packed his tools silently. We need higher ground. Rezik blinked. Why? To get answers. And because we're not alone out here anymore. The ascent wasn't easy. Even with Kaito leading the way, timing their steps between gravity pulses and guiding them around heat-sensing fungus, they were exhausted by the time they reached the spire. The top overlooked a crater valley, ringed by jagged peaks and smoking vents. But it wasn't the terrain that made Rezik swear in 3 languages. It was the structure in the middle. A dome. Slick black, with a shimmer like oil on water. No insignia. No seams. No entrance. Scan it, Kaito ordered, already unfolding a lattice relay. Nothing's bouncing back. Rezik muttered, waving his scanner. It's absorbing signal. That's not League tech. Not even outlaw tech, Rezik added. I've fought smugglers with better scrap than that. This is older. Pre-alliance, maybe even pre-species. Kaito didn't reply. He was syncing the relay to his neural slate. His fingers paused over the interface. This world was decommissioned for testing 3 years ago, he said finally. It was marked dormant in League archives. No cadet team's been here since. Rezik narrowed his eyes. Then why send us? Kaito didn't blink. Because someone wanted to see what would happen when they dropped us here. Who? Don't know yet. He tapped the slate. But I can find out. Rezik was about to ask how when the sky shimmered. It looked like a heat mirage at first, a ripple of atmosphere distorting above the valley. But it expanded, folded in on itself, then snapped open like a wound. A ship dropped through. Black. Angular. Silent. No thrusters. No markings. Just gravity-defying presence. And it wasn't a League craft. Get down! Kaito snapped, pulling Rezik behind a basalt outcrop. The ship hovered above the dome. Then something opened. It wasn't a hatch. It peeled, like a flower blooming in reverse. Figures descended, 7 in total. Tall. Multi-limbed. Armored in carapace that shimmered with adaptive camouflage. Predators. But not like any Kaito had seen in the files. New species? Rezik whispered. Kaito's eyes didn't leave the scope. No. Lost species. What? Extinct. Or so the records said. They're Irakan. Rezik's voice dropped. That's a myth. Kaito shook his head slowly. Myth or classified so deep it became one. The Irakan were nightmare fuel, an ancient apex race rumored to have ruled star systems before humanity ever learned to shape metal. The League never confirmed their existence. Most said it was propaganda, bogeymen to justify weapons R&D. But they were here. On a supposedly empty test planet. And they weren't here by accident. One of the Irakan bent over the dome. Its claws extended, not tools, but biohardened instruments. It tapped a pattern. The dome reacted. It breathed. And opened. Rezik was already shouldering his plasma repeater. We go loud? Kaito caught his wrist. You fire, we both die. Maybe the whole valley. We can't just sit here. I'm not. He tapped the relay. The neural slate pulsed. An interface bloomed in the air, strings of data and League cipher, static laced with panic. Then a face appeared. Old. Gray-bearded. A scar down his cheek. Director Elwyn, Kaito said. Rezik gaped. You're calling the Director of League Intelligence? Kaito ignored him. Sir, this is Cadet Kaito Hoshino. Xenocombat 401, Hefar 9 drop zone. This world is not dormant. Irakan are active and operational. Elwyn stared. How did you crack this channel? I built it. What? Kaito's expression didn't change. You trained me for ghost scenarios. You told me they weren't real. But they are, aren't they? This was a containment test. Elwyn didn't deny it. Rezik blinked. What is happening? Kaito answered. They seeded death worlds with ancient remnants. Not to destroy them. To study them. League intelligence has been watching these creatures evolve. Seeing which species survive. Which die. Elwyn's voice was steel. You're not authorized. Then you better authorize me now. A long pause. Then, upload full visual. I'll reroute support. Kaito cut the feed. Rezik stepped back, stunned. You're not just a cadet, are you? I was. Until today. The Arakan began to move. Not randomly. Purposefully. Toward the Trilene, toward them. They know we're here. Rezik whispered. Kaito was already on the move. We split. What? They hunt in vectors. Triangular sweeps. If we stay together, we get funneled. If we split, we break their pattern. And regroup where? Kaito passed him a pulse tag. Beacon sink in 2 hours. East Ridge. There's a canyon with basalt choke points. They're too big to follow in pairs. Rezik hesitated. And if they do? Then make your last stand count. With a grim nod, Rezik vanished into the mist. Kaito went the other way. And as the sky darkened, the predators gave chase. He ran without panic. Every movement was intentional. He left misdirection trails, used magnetic rock pockets to hide his heat signature, even smeared pheromone repellent over his boots to confuse scent trackers. But the Arakan were smart. They didn't chase directly. They surrounded. Flanked. Kaito dropped a fragmentation mine. It took one of them. But 2 more closed in. He dived under a fallen chasm root, squeezing through a tunnel barely wide enough for a human. He could hear them, clicking, communicating, triangulating. He dropped a flare behind him, bright, noisy, useless in the open, but loud enough to draw attention. He made it to the ridge. Set the sync beacon. Then waited. Rezik arrived 6 minutes later, bleeding from the leg, grinning like a madman. They're mad. He panted. They move like a unit. Like they're playing chess 3 turns ahead. They are, Kaito replied, pressing a patch over Rezik's wound. But so are we. Rezik blinked. We are? Kaito stood. Behind him, the dome was glowing. You said something earlier, Kaito murmured. About the crash site being harvested. Yeah? Kaito's eyes narrowed. What if this isn't a training accident? What if we're not the targets? Rezik stared. You think the Arakan aren't hunting us? They're here for something inside the dome. And we're just bystanders. No, Kaito said softly. We're the test. Far above them, unseen by their cadet, another ship emerged from folded space. Sleek. Silent. It bore the crest of League intelligence. Inside, Director Elwyn leaned forward, eyes locked on the feed. Activate Protocol X Delta 7, he said. Deploy Ghost Team. Retrieve the human. Which one? The officer asked. Elwyn didn't hesitate. The one who built the damn relay network before he could legally join the academy. Kaito crouched at the ridge, breathing slow. He didn't smile. He didn't flinch. Because he'd suspected all along. The Death World test was never about survival. It was about awakening something buried. And now, it was awake. The first pulse nearly knocked Kaito off his feet. It wasn't an explosion. Not really. It was more like the air forgot how to exist for a second, like the world blinked, and then came back wrong. Static shimmered along the rocks, crawling like ants over Rezik's skin. What in the void was that? Rezik groaned, checking his weapon as if it might have broken just by being nearby. Kaito didn't answer. He was staring across the valley. The dome, still humming, was now covered in an expanding fractal pattern. Not etched. Not projected. The material itself was rewriting. Kaido, Rezik said warily. Why does it look like the dome's thinking? Because it is. Rezik made a noise halfway between a growl and a scoff. You want to try explaining that in a language I didn't fail twice? It's not a building, Kaido said, his voice unnervingly calm. It's a neural core. Organic architecture. Synaptic alloys, reactive fibers, whatever's inside that dome is alive. It's responding to the Arakan's input. Great, Rezik muttered. So the ancient death monsters found their old haunted house. What do we do? Knock politely. We go inside. Rezik froze. Are you out of your mind? Probably. But we're running out of time. The Arakan didn't guard the dome in a traditional sense. They circled it like sentinels, forming a slow-moving perimeter, never stopping, never speaking. Just watching. Calculating. Kaido and Rezik observed from a nearby ridge, using infrared overlays and gravitic mapping to track their movements. Every 5 minutes the pattern reset. 3 outer sentries rotated. 2 inner ones moved in tighter orbits. There was always a gap, 3 seconds long, maybe 4. But just enough. You're seriously thinking of sneaking into the middle of that? Rezik asked, pointing at the dome with a shaky claw. I don't think we have a choice. We could call for evac. Kaido shook his head. The moment the League gets here in force, those creatures will vanish. And whatever's inside that dome, it's the reason they returned. We can't afford to lose it. Rezik grunted. You sound like a spook. I was trained by one. And let me guess. You're not technically breaking protocol because technically this isn't a sanctioned mission anymore. Kaido smiled faintly. Now you're getting it. They waited for the next rotation. Then they ran. The air near the dome crackled with low-level electromagnetic distortion. The grass wilted where they stepped. Even the insects, relentless on this death world, vanished as they approached. 3 seconds was all they had. Kaido ducked under a pulsing arc of shifting black and slid into the entry crease, no longer sealed. The dome welcomed them. It opened. Rezik stumbled in after him, gasping. You didn't tell me it would feel like being swallowed. Would you have come? Point. Inside was worse. The dome's interior wasn't solid. It was a pulsating cavern of light and fluid motion. Shapes swam in the walls, echoes of technology and biology fused in ways that defied taxonomy. Tubes like arteries carried glowing information. Veins of silver-blue circuits throbbed with purpose. And in the center, the core. It was suspended midair, held aloft by nothing. A crystalline lattice surrounded by spinning glyphs, some recognizable, most not. The moment Kaido stepped closer, his neural slate surged with data. It's broadcasting, he whispered. To what? To everything. Kaido reached out, hesitated, then tapped the interface glyph. The entire dome shuddered. Then the world fell away. He was somewhere else. Not physically, but his mind was pulled, like a strand of thought wrapped in static. He stood in darkness, surrounded by images. Arakan worlds aflame. Their fleets shattering in orbital sieges. A council of elder minds making a final choice, not extinction, but exile. Hefar 9 chosen as a sanctuary. A seed placed deep underground, this dome, designed to remember them. To one day awaken them. Then came flashes of now. The League's excavations. Their tampering. The insertion of cadet trials like a test against the inevitable. But Kaido saw something more. He was not random. He had been selected. His files weren't falsified. They were arranged. Even his academy rejection at age 12, followed by sudden admission after a League bureaucratic error? Not a coincidence. Someone had been grooming him for this. A whisper echoed in the black. You are the bridge. Then he was slammed back into his body. He gasped, staggering backward, and Rezik caught him. What the void just happened? The reptilian demanded. I saw it, Kaido said. All of it. It what? The war. The truth. The reason the Arakan came back. Rezik stared. And? They don't want to conquer us. Oh, that's great news. They want to warn us. Rezek blinked. Then the dome screamed. Not in sound, but pressure, light, energy. A wave of pulsing code exploded from the core, tearing through the terrain, lighting up the sky in cascading fractal pulses. Far overhead, Kaido knew, ships in orbit were now blinking emergency symbols across every console. The message had gone galactic. Back at the extraction site, Ghost Team Alpha arrived. Black armor. No insignia. Silent. Efficient. Director Elwyn watched from the command module, expression unreadable. Still no response from Cadet Hoshino, his aide said. He'll respond when he's ready, Elwyn replied. And if he doesn't? Elwyn narrowed his eyes. Then he's learned too much. Orders? Elwyn didn't answer. But he tapped a code into the console. Ghost Team's helmets lit up. Inside the dome, Kaido was already moving. He ripped his neural slate from his chest harness and tossed it to Rezek. Get this to the extraction point. If I don't make it, you have to get this data out. Rezek blinked. Wait. What are you? The Arakan aren't just here to awaken this thing. They built it to detect threats. And now it's found one. What kind of threat? Kaido's face darkened. Us. Rezek recoiled. You think the League's the threat? Not all of it. But someone high up has been poking at the edges of things they don't understand. Arakan tech. Ghost fleets. Ancient algorithms. This dome? It's a failsafe. A warning beacon. And you just lit the fuse. Kaido nodded. Rezek growled. Then we both go. No way I'm dragging your corpse out while the galaxy catches fire. Kaido hesitated. Then smiled faintly. You've changed. Don't get sentimental. I just don't like being bored. They ran. The moment they cleared the dome, the sky shattered. It wasn't a metaphor. A beam of hard light energy pierced the clouds, from orbit. It hit the dome with surgical precision, sending waves of burning air in every direction. The ground cracked. Trees vaporized. Ghost Team had fired. No, Kaito whispered. The dome collapsed, folding in on itself like a dying star, its lattice disintegrating into motes of light that evaporated in the wind. Those maniacs! Rezek roared. They erased the evidence. No, Kaito murmured. They tried to. But I uploaded it. Rezek turned. Kaito was kneeling by a half-buried transmitter node. Backup relay. I've been piggybacking the Arakan signal since we arrived. He tapped a final code. The node flashed. And now everyone knows. But their time was up. Figures dropped into the clearing. Silent. Lethal. Ghost Team Alpha surrounded them in a perfect semicircle, weapons raised. One of them stepped forward. Cadet Hoshino. You are under Interdiction Protocol Theta 7. Hand over the data and surrender. Kaido stood slowly. Rezek bared his teeth. Try and take him. The soldier didn't move. We don't want bloodshed. Kaido tilted his head. Then you shouldn't have started a war. He reached for his belt. Rezek tensed. But Kaido pulled out a pulse chip, not a weapon, but a code key. He held it high. This is now public. Every major node on the LeagueNet received the beacon's signal. Everyone will know about the Arakan. The dome. The test. The ghosts didn't move. Then a new voice came through their comms. Stand down. It was Elwyn. Sir? The lead asked. He's right. We're exposed now. No point in killing heroes. Retrieve the cadets. We'll handle the fallout politically. The ghosts relaxed. Kaido exhaled. Rezek muttered. That was anticlimactic. But Kaido smiled. For the first time, really smiled. Sometimes survival isn't about killing. Sometimes it's about knowing where to put the truth. They were escorted to the evac shuttle. The dome was gone. The Arakan vanished. The world went still. But the message was out. The galaxy had heard. And no one, not even the League, could put that silence back. They didn't speak during the evac flight. Kaito sat by the viewport, watching the twisted terrain of Hifar-9 fade beneath the rising clouds, its secrets now ash and vapor. Rezik sat beside him, unusually quiet for someone whose volume knob rarely dropped below. Intimidate. The only sound was the low hum of the shuttle's thrusters. Not even the League escort ships following them dared break the silence. Not after what had just happened. Not after the entire system had heard the scream of a long-buried truth. Kaito tapped his neural slate. The emergency data dump had gone through, encrypted, redundant, embedded in every civilian and military stream. Even the hypernet comedians would be joking about Death Worldgate by morning. The Arakan, the dome, the real test, it was out there now. And it couldn't be taken back. Rezik finally spoke. You think they'll let us live? Kaito didn't turn. They're calculating. Not stupid. They know if we disappear now, people ask questions. Unless they make it look like an accident. Then they'd better do a very good job. Because now I'm the guy who leaked a classified operation on a galactic scale. Rezik chuckled. Never figured you for the rebellious type. I'm not. I just hate being lied to. Rezik looked at him sideways. You know what bothers me most? Kaito raised an eyebrow. I'm not even mad at you. I should be. You dragged me into a galactic incident. You used me to survive. You risked our lives to wake up some ancient space beacon. And I kinda liked it. Kaito allowed himself the ghost of a smirk. The League Inquiry Tribunal was not what Kaito expected. No glowing interrogation chairs. No shadowy panels of cybernetic overlords. Just a long white table, 5 bored-looking officials, and a recording orb hovering above them. The hearing was closed door, which in League terms meant only 100,000 people watching the secure stream. He was escorted in alone. Rezik wasn't invited. Which was probably for the best. Kaito doubted the tribunal could handle his colorful vocabulary. Cadet Kaito Hoshino, said the central official, a woman with a face like a polished blade. You stand before this tribunal on charges of unauthorized access to classified systems, breach of protocol, and dissemination of protected data. Kaito nodded. Understood. Do you deny the charges? No. The panel shifted uncomfortably. They hadn't expected that. Then do you have anything to say in your defense? Kaito stepped forward, palms behind his back, voice steady. Only that the galaxy now knows something it was never meant to forget. The Arakan existed. They may still exist. And our leaders, some of you, perhaps, have known about them for years. You've studied their ruins. You built training simulations near their remains. You used cadets like me as canaries in an ancient minefield. He paused. Let the silence settle. I exposed that. And I won't apologize. The officials exchanged glances. One tapped a hidden console. Another cleared his throat. You realize this hearing could result in your expulsion, imprisonment, or permanent interdiction. Kaito didn't blink. Yes. Then why do it? He looked at them, really looked. Eyes like mirrors. Calm. Unshaken. Because someone had to say it first. They didn't imprison him. That would have made him a martyr. Instead, they reassigned him. Which was League speak for. Put him where he can't talk, but can't be killed. He found himself transferred to a listening post on the edge of known space. No team. No partner. Just deep-range sensors and a constant whisper of static from the black between stars. He didn't mind. Because static has patterns. And Kaito had learned to listen. The League may have buried the story, diluted the outrage, redirected the conversation with the usual flood of scandals and distractions. But the truth had left a crack in the illusion. A small one. But real. And Kaito only needed a crack. 6 weeks later, a private vessel docked at the outpost. Unauthorized. Unscheduled. Rezik stepped out, lugging a duffel bag the size of a cryo-coffin and wearing a grin like he punched a sun and survived. You're early, Kaito said, amused. Didn't want to miss breakfast. There's no breakfast here. Then I'm right on time. He dropped the bag. It clanked ominously. You're not supposed to be here, Kaido added. Neither are you. But here we are. Kaido raised an eyebrow. Is that what I think it is? Rezik patted the bag. Salvaged Urakan tech. Before the League could erase everything, a few fragments made it off-world. I have friends. You have smugglers. Rezik grinned. Details. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You were right, you know. About it being a warning. I know. Well, what if the Urakan weren't just warning us about the past? Kaito's eyes narrowed. Go on. Rezik unzipped the bag and pulled out a data crystal. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. This started broadcasting last night. Same frequency as the dome. But this time, it wasn't a distress signal. Kaido took it carefully, connecting it to his terminal. The screen flashed. A single glyph appeared. One he hadn't seen before. Then it translated. We remember you. Then coordinates. Not in League space. Beyond the outer veil. Far past the edge of explored territory. Kaido sat back, stunned. They're calling us, he whispered. Rezik folded his arms. You want to ignore it? No. Then we're going? Kaido looked up, steel behind his calm. We're going. They stole a ship. Technically, they commandeered one from a League scrapyard and reprogrammed the transponder. But it wasn't elegant. It wasn't sanctioned. And it sure wasn't legal. It was fast. They called it Whisper, because Kaido didn't believe in naming ships after big animals or mythological beasts. He wanted something subtle. Something no one would see coming. Fitting, really? Rezik modified the weapons. Kaido modified the sensors. Together, they plotted a course to the coordinates no League map acknowledged. It took 3 weeks through dead space. No comms. No resupply. Just cold engines and the anticipation of the unknown. When they arrived, there was nothing. Just a broken moon. An empty star. A field of debris like shattered mirrors. Until the signal changed. It didn't say, "We remember you." This time. It said, "Do you remember US?" Then, space itself folded. And a ship emerged. Not League. Not Urakan. Something new. It looked like liquid light frozen in motion, wings of glass and shadow. No engines. No bridge. But it was watching them. Kaido stood in the cockpit, staring. Rezik muttered, "Tell me this is still part of the simulation." Kaito's eyes didn't leave the viewport. No. This is the next chapter. The alien ship blinked, one long pulse of harmonic light. Then it sent a transmission. Not in words. In memories. Kaido flinched as they struck him, images of stars being born, empires falling, machines dreaming. They weren't being invited. They were being tested. Again. And this time, no one was watching but them. Weeks later, back in the core systems, rumors began to spread. A League listening post had gone dark. A cadet long thought buried in bureaucracy was spotted on the fringe. A new signal was mapping itself across deep space, one no codebreaker could decrypt. And somewhere, in a hidden office beneath the League's deepest records vault, Director Elwyn sat alone, listening to the whispers. He knew. The galaxy was changing. The test hadn't ended. It had just begun. Rezik leaned back in his chair aboard Whisper, staring at a screen full of alien code neither of them could read. "You ever regret not taking a normal path?" he asked. Kaido was calibrating a new sensor array by hand. "What, like desk work and annual evaluations?" "Yeah. No." Rezik chuckled. "Didn't think so." There was silence for a while. Then Kaido asked, "Why'd you really follow me off that planet?" Rezik shrugged. "I thought you were crazy. Then I realized you weren't. And that was reassuring?" "No. That was terrifying." They both laughed. And somewhere far beyond known space, the stars shifted. The quiet one in class had made noise. Not with shouts. Not with violence. With the kind of noise that echoed through governments, shook hidden cabals, and rewrote the future. He'd been the test subject. The pawn. The outlier. Now, he was the catalyst. The bridge. And he was just getting started.